Yeah. Pro Fan Sports Podcast. Let's get it. Pro fans, tune into the program. Every single week, get the dope, fam. Sean on the mic, very flat too. Keep you updated, that's what we do. Pro fans, tune into the program. Pro fans, tune into the program. Pro fans, tune into the program. Every single week, get the dope, fam.
Yo, what to do, everybody? It's your boy, John Altidor with Pro Fan Sports Podcast. Back at you with another one. My boys, Vlad, Barry, and today we got editor covering the Patriots for Patriots Maven, SI of SI Now, host of Locked On Patriots Podcast, and full press coverage. It's Mike Debate. How you doing, Mike?
Oh, I'm doing wonderful, gentlemen. Thank you so much for having me on. Great to be here on the day after the Super Bowl. Always lots to talk about. You guys do a great job. I've been looking forward to this one for a while.
Yeah, I mean, there's a method to the madness, right? We're like, Super Bowl's going on. We got to have somebody to come in here and, shoot the shit with us for a little bit, man. And last night, February 13th on Sunday, we had a pretty good Super Bowl. I don't think it was anything dramatic going on in the Super Bowl, but nonetheless, it was a good Super Bowl. How'd you guys enjoy that? What'd you guys do?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Go ahead, Mike.
Go ahead, Mike. No, you're the guest. You start off first.
I enjoyed the Super Bowl last night. I mean, I thought, from start to finish, I thought it was a pretty good game. I mean, there was a good amount of back and forth between the Bengals, between the Rams. Obviously, hell of a defensive stand toward the end there with Aaron Donald. Matt Stafford and Kupp making it look, pretty good on that drive, the 79-yard drive. But the Bengals held their own. They came in, played well, broke down a little bit, I guess, on the offensive line. But from start to finish, it was great. I was a big fan of the halftime show. I really loved watching that. So, it was a fun night. It was actually pretty good for once to be able to watch a Super Bowl without a dog in the hunt or without a lot of anxiety. We don't get too many Super Bowls anymore without either Tom Brady or the New England Patriots, or even a couple of years ago when we got the Chiefs and the 49ers, Jimmy Garoppolo was involved in that Super Bowl. So, there was always some sort of Patriots connection. It was nice to be able to have, things a little bit different this time around.
Yeah, no, for sure, man. Exactly what you just said. I wasn't anxious at all last night. I think America, could have rooted for either team last night, right? Mm-hmm. You had Matthew Stafford, Odell Beckham, and those guys on the other side. Everybody wanted to get their chance at a championship, and then you had the young guns and Joe Shiesty, Jamar Chase doing their thing out there, man. I thought it was a great game for sure. Like I said, they didn't have too many of the theatrics, but it was definitely it was a good Super Bowl, not having a dog in the race, you're not as anxious. I'm sure people were in Cincinnati where, they were certain that at the end, sure for me, I didn't like the ending. I didn't like how it ended, that ended up, fourth down, nothing really happened with that. The guy didn't dive for the ball or anything like that, It just kind of ended, But nonetheless, it was a good Super Bowl. Did you guys watch it through? Vlad, Barry?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I thought it was an okay Super Bowl. It was a very competitive game throughout the whole game. But it just, to me, I felt as though it was called perfectly by the referees until that third down play. Where they called the hold, and I thought that was the most ridiculous play ever.
Oh, they had to make up for that. They had to make up for the Jalen Ramsey.
I don't think they did. The whole game didn't make any
call, John, huh?
That was a makeup.
The whole game they didn't call any other play, but that tiki-taka call, they ended up calling it, which I thought was ridiculous. But, overall, I thought it was an okay game. It was very competitive, but I don't know. It just wasn't as exciting to me as other games, as other previous games. But At the end of the day, I think I was rooting for Cincinnati, so I was kind of biased toward the end of the game.
Underdogs.
But it was cool to see Aaron Donald win. And OBJ, I mean, it sucks that he got injured halfway through the game because I thought if he didn't get injured halfway through the game, he could have been MVP. But Cooper Kupp also deserved it as well. So overall, I would say it was an okay game.
Yeah, for me, it was it was a really good night. I thought I certainly enjoyed, the Super Bowl as far as, the game and the halftime show. The halftime show was fire, man. That was dope. I was singing and dancing to every song. I knew every song pretty just about all the lyrics. Like, oh man, it was awesome. That was amazing, and one of the best halftime Super Bowl performances that I've seen recently, without question. So no, definitely shout out to all those performers who performed, because yeah, they shut it down and killed it. But as far as the game goes, I thought the game was pretty good. I think there were at times where it was pretty boring and dull and not much going on. And then there were times where it was, got pretty interesting and, pretty intense, and pretty exciting. Certainly, there was some, I liked that, the officials for the most part were letting them play and not calling too many penalties and, flags until, the last 2 minutes of the game. And really that last drive by the Rams, that's when, the penalties started coming in. But for the most part, they were, kind of just had a hands-off approach and just letting the players, do their thing and decide the outcome of the game. And I thought that, I kind of think that Cincinnati should have had this one. I think they gave it away and, and kind of woke up the Rams and kind of, let them hang around and did the game too long and didn't really, put them away when they had their opportunities to. But big play for me, that was a turning point, was, I'm sure you guys remember this play, was when Joe Burrow was running towards the sideline and Aaron Donald was going after him, and he had, was like a yard away from the sideline, and he pushed him on the sideline, and it wasn't a late hit because he was still in the field of play. But then there was like a big, scrum between the two teams, and guys were, punching and pushing each other. And I know a couple of linemen of the Bengals pushed, Aaron Donald, and that pretty much, I feel like that was the turning point of the game, because from that point on, the defense of the Rams was just dominant, particularly the defensive line just took over the game and, and completely got after Joe Burrow on just about every play. So I think that changed, the game significantly. Definitely on that last drive, them finally going to Cooper Kupp, even being double covered. That certainly was a big, factor and big thing that happened. And, and certainly being able to, have, him as well as the other guys step up who weren't familiar in those positions as well. They, made plays when they had to. And Matt Stafford, finally, showed that he can, win, is worthy of being a champion and being a Super Bowl, winning quarterback. So definitely, I enjoyed the game and glad that it wasn't stressful. And and certainly, thought that for the most part it was a pretty well played game, with the exception of a select few plays. But I thought overall it was a good Super Bowl.
All right, Mike, what do you think were the keys to the game last night, for the Rams? I feel like after OBJ went out, they were limited a little bit. What did they do to pull this one out?
Well, they didn't panic. I think that's really the best thing that I can say about the Los Angeles Rams last night is that you lose a player with the magnitude of Odell Beckham Jr. Most teams would scramble. They wouldn't know how to respond. We've seen the New England Patriots do that so many times up here in New England where you take a hit and they're able to come back and they're able to utilize the rest of the players on their roster, rally together, and then come together to try to pull out the victory. I saw that in the Rams last night. Especially the way that the Cincinnati Bengals started the second half. I mean, naturally, they come out, score a touchdown within, 12 seconds, I believe it was, into the second half. They put points on the board. Then they come away with a big-time interception. All of a sudden, the system looks like it's breaking down. The Rams clamped down. They allowed only about 70 yards worth of offense from that point on. The defense really came together, and they started to put pressure and utilize their front seven and utilize that mismatch that they have with the offensive line of the Cincinnati Bengals, which started to break down. And then you started to see players like Aaron Donald get home, get after the quarterback, bring those blitzes from the second and third level of the defense. That's something that I was really impressed with, the Los Angeles Rams and how they were able to do that. So by playing strong defense and going back to basics, they were essentially able to keep Cincinnati at bay. And then you got to give some credit down the stretch to guys like Cooper Kupp and Matt Stafford, who, again, didn't panic. They knew they had a big-time drive. For lack of a better term, Stafford, everybody knew where the ball was going. They knew that the ball was going to have to go to Cooper Kupp in that situation, and they made the play happen. And that was a tremendous drive for essentially what ended up being the game winners. So I was very impressed by the Rams not panicking, utilizing their strengths and what they did well, and trying to take away the strengths of the Cincinnati Bengals. And not only that, but also attacking their weakness, that offensive line. They've got to do something, meaning the Cincinnati Bengals. They have to do something to address that in the offseason. They got to get Joe Burrow more protection. He was on the ground way too much in a Super Bowl game yesterday for a young quarterback, especially a quarterback that, let's face it, guys, has an injury history. That they need to do something there. But I was impressed with the fact that the Rams did not fold after losing someone like OBJ, because it would have been very easy for them to do that.
Yeah, I mean, a guy like Cooper Kupp, who won the Triple Crown this year, yards, touchdowns, catches, and all, and then going into the Super Bowl, you saw what he did against the Tampa Bay to actually pull that game out. Like, what is it about Cooper Kupp that, like, the ball is going to Cooper Kupp? What are these teams not doing to, like, stop him?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it really, I think a lot of it has to do with Cooper's ability to get open. I think it has a lot to do with his prowess, the way he runs a route, the way he's able to pivot, the hands that he shows, and also the experience that he has. I think all of that coming together really makes for a receiver that is so difficult to stop because he can do it all well. He can align on the outside. We saw him do it yesterday. He's also so deadly in the slot, and that's something that I think when you have that type of versatility, it's difficult to be able to stop. Cincinnati's secondary, I thought, did a fairly decent job of trying to contain him, keep him to an area where he was manageable, but Cooper is eventually going to get his looks. And at the end of the day, I think Cincinnati's defense realized that they're going to need a little more help up front in order to give the secondary some help back there in coverage. That was really, I think, where you saw some of the breakdowns yesterday. So I got to give the credit to Cooper as opposed to what opposing defenses are not doing. I think he's just finding ways to make plays. And when a player is playing at that high a level, it's difficult for him to be stopped.
Absolutely, man. I'm watching.
Totally agree with that.
We all know where the ball is going, and it's going to go there, and it's going to get there regardless,
Facts. That's right.
You mentioned Cincinnati, which, I feel like they had a Cinderella season, 10-7, and made it all the way to the Super Bowl, and it took out the Titans, took out, Kansas City. I feel like a lot of people think that Cincinnati's going to be back in this because they have Joe Burrow. I feel the opposite because I'm like, this was the year, for them to actually go in there and make it. Do you think Cincinnati can, like, keep up with what they've done and keep being a contender?
Well, I think Joe Burrow has all of the qualities necessary to be a quarterback that can lead a successful team for quite a while. But guys, we've seen it several times. It is not easy to get back to the Super Bowl. It's not easy to get to that level. And you have to take advantage of the time that you have there. You have to take advantage of the opportunities. If Cincinnati can approach free agency and the draft well, if they continue to surround Joe with protection, that's going to be key. If they can get him some offensive line help, then yeah, I think this team could be around and could contend because of the prowess of Joe Burrow. But I think they're going to need to make defensive improvements as well. They're a piece or two short on the front seven. May need to look at, for some secondary help as well. But they've got the intangibles. They've got a good runner in Joe Mixon. They've got a clear-cut number one in Jamar Chase. If they can keep these types of prowess going, then yeah, I think they do have a chance. But again, it's never a guarantee. And I completely agree with you, John. I mean, I think there's a situation that is really, I think a lot of teams, and not just the Bengals, but a lot of teams that have been to the mountaintop and not been able to actually reach the pinnacle and be the Super Bowl champion. A lot of teams will tell you it is extremely difficult to get back to that level. You may think you've reached that level, but you have to do a lot to maintain it. Just makes you appreciate what the Patriots been able to do up here for 2 decades. It really is remarkable what they were able to do. I can tell you,
Absolutely.
It is not easy. It is not easy. So, yeah, as long as you have Joe Burrow, I think you got a shot, but it's not a slam dunk. And other teams are going to be hungry. Other teams are going to be coming for them now. They've got that bullseye on them.
Right. Ask Kansas City how much of a slam dunk it is, right?
Facts, exactly.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
That's a good one. Yes, sir. Right, for real. No, they thought it was easy, and they're finding out the hard way. It ain't as easy as they thought. They thought they were gonna be the new, the new version of the new era of the Patriots, right, and the new dynasty in the NFL, and just dominate the league year in and year out. And those guys like Tyreek Hill and Kelsey and Patrick Mahomes, as great as they are, right? It's not easy to win. Super Bowls and get there every single year. Like
they're relegated to talking trash to Eli Apple on Twitter. That's what they're doing.
Right, for real. When Eli Apple was the one that freaking covered him and shut them down and was able to force that interception in overtime to beat the Chiefs. So yeah, for real, they need to keep that same energy and take the L, and keep it moving and use that as motivation to get better next year.
Yeah, Vlad?
Yeah, I agree with you guys. I think it's really hard to get back to the Super Bowl, and I'm not saying that Joe Burrow will never go back to the Super Bowl, but it's not going to be as easy as people think it might be. I think it's going to be really hard. And one of the things that people have been talking about today is how hard it is for first-year players that, not just young players that got to the Super Bowl early in the career, how hard it is for them to go back. And Joe Burrow looks like he got balls, and he looks like a really tough quarterback, and I think he has the mindset to put in the work. But it's not going to be easy to go back after such a tough loss. But the league, I think the league is in good hands when we have really good quarterbacks, but also when we have really good head coaches. And I think there's a tremendous amount of young head coaches in the league currently. And we saw 2 of the youngest head coaches in the league on Sunday, Sean McVay and what's his name? Zach Taylor. So Mike, tell us a little bit about the tremendous job that Sean McVay has done over the past 5 years, bringing his team to the Super Bowl twice, being such a young head coach. I think he got the job at 30 years old. I'm 31. I just feel like such a loser. And this guy's done just amazing with. They brought a lot of talent to his team, but to be able to go back to the Super Bowl after losing it, against the Patriots and winning it, that's just an amazing job. And Zach Taylor bringing such a young team to the Super Bowl, it was a Cinderella story and a lot of things had to go their way, but they did it and they got to the Super Bowl. Talk to us about both coaches and how they were able to get there, but also the job that they did in the Super Bowl. Sean McVay overcoming the loss of Odell Beckham Jr. and and Zach Taylor, having the lead and controlling the game for having the lead for most of the game, but coming in short. Talk to us about both coaches and the job that they did throughout the season and on Sunday.
Yeah, Vlad, I think you hit the nail right on the head when you said that the league is in good shape when it comes to young coaches in this league. And two of the best right now are Sean McVay and Zach Taylor. Look, I was very impressed with the way Zach Taylor handled the Bengals this year. He gave them the opportunity to be themselves. He gave them the opportunity to play their game, utilize their strengths, and really, I think, sneak up on a lot of people. I think that a lot of, pundits, myself included, I picked against the Bengals against the Titans. I picked against them against the Chiefs. And I picked them in the Super Bowl, so I didn't really go too well there. But that bottom line, Zach Taylor's coaching style really was a big part of allowing Joe Burrow to be able to play into his own, allow this team to be able to form their own identity. And as long as he continues to do that and utilize what his players do well, he'll continue to have success. But the difference between the two coaches yesterday was experience. Sean McVay had it. He's been there before. He's done a tremendous job with this team, managing not only personalities and several big-time personalities, several big names on this roster, being able to meld that together. That's not easy to do in any sport, let alone the NFL, because the NFL is really not built for super teams the way a lot of people say, oh, the NBA might be a little bit. The NFL is built a little bit different. They're more parity-based. So when you look at what Sean McVay did yesterday, I go back to what I said about OBJ, and again, Vlad, I think you said this very well. They didn't panic. They stayed true to who they were, and that comes from the top. That comes from the head coach. And having been there before, I think it gave Sean McVay the advantage. And after the game, I heard him talking to reporters and saying, I overthought so much in Super Bowl 53 against the New England Patriots. I was going up against Bill Belichick, the great Bill Belichick. I was trying to outsmart myself and trying to figure things out and really not play my game and focus on my strengths. I think having been there before was a big advantage for Sean McVay. And what he is a very good coach. He trusted his instincts yesterday, and I think it showed.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I mean, the guy's been to 2 Super Bowls already in a short period of time, and he's just winning. And he went with a sucky quarterback in the first Super Bowl. And this quarterback, I mean, he's good, but he hasn't had the history of being good and winning playoff games. And today, people are talking about him like, he's one of the really good quarterbacks in the league, which he is. But I mean, he wasn't regarded as such for a long time. So, yeah, tremendous job.
By casuals,
Say that again?
I said by casuals. I feel like Matt Stafford's always been like a really good quarterback because, I mean, if you think about it, he's had 2 receivers with 2 of the best, seasons of all time, Calvin Johnson and now Cooper Kupp. So it's like the guy can throw the ball, you know what I'm saying? But, circumstances being in Detroit, that's not the best situation.
Yeah, I mean, not just by casuals, but, so sometimes you expect quarterbacks to elevate their teams no matter where they are. I mean, circumstances obviously matters, but, having such losing seasons and, I mean, it didn't look good. Anyways, my next question was going to be around the Patriots coaching staff. And, in Aflazo, we've lost a lot of members of our coaching staff lately. Josh McDaniels took away our receiver coach, our line coach.
He took away everybody.
So,
for real, damn.
And I mean, in Bill we trust, that's true, but it hasn't been that great lately. I mean, the team didn't have a good season under him after Brady left. Even the year before Brady left, the team didn't look that great. And then last year, I mean, the team looked okay for 7 games in the middle of the season, but after that, they lost to the Bills in terrible fashion both times. And I mean, I guess my question is around, what do you make of Bill's tremendous change throughout his coaching staff, and how does he overcome that, and can he overcome that? Is Bill the same Bill that he's been over the last 20 years with Tom Brady? I mean, what do you make of that?
I think if there's any coach in the league that can withstand the type of losses the Patriots have had on the coaching staff, It's Bill Belichick. He's been there before. He knows how to weather through the storm. But that being said, as good as Bill is, and in my opinion, the greatest coach in NFL history, he can't wear every hat on that sideline. He cannot be head coach, offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, quarterbacks coach, wide receivers coach. There has to be a happy medium and a balance that I think right now fans are looking at it and saying, well, the cupboard's a little bit bare. There's no question about it. The Patriots lost some significant coaching talent, not just Josh McDaniels, obviously, as the offensive coordinator. And look, I know there's a lot of fans out there that'll say, well, Josh really didn't get aggressive enough with Mac. He relied on the run too much. He was too conservative. Josh McDaniels is a very good offensive coach. He knows what he's doing on that side of the ball, so they'll clearly miss him. Bo Hardegree, I think, is a loss as well because he worked very well with Mac Jones this year. The quarterbacks now, all of a sudden, are going to be devoid of their two primary voices, McDaniels and Hardegree. You take out Carmen Brasillo out of the offensive line, and now all of a sudden you're going to take Nick Lombardi out of the wide receivers, and he had his hand in a lot of areas in the offense as well. Now you're looking at four significant coaches that aren't going to be there. So what are the Patriots going to have to do? They're going to have to go back to the drawing board. They brought in Joe Judge as an offensive assistant. That surprised me a little bit. Joe is not known for his offensive prowess. He's more known for his special teams prowess, and Joe is an excellent special teams coach. But his offensive resume is not extensive. He did a good job with the wide receivers. Go back a couple of years ago when he did coach Julian Edelman. Edelman had nothing but great things to say about Joe and how he looked to his receivers, and he looked to utilize them in a way that allowed them to be very free about speaking to him about what they felt they did well and how they could help the team. Joe was a very hands-on coach and really took a very hands-on approach. So I expect to see some of that, but at the same time, the Patriots are going to have to backfill some of those positions, and they've got guys on staff that can do it, but ultimately, I do think they're going to bring someone else in that is outside the organization. That's just a gut feeling on my end. I don't have any inside information right now that would tell me that they're leaning in that direction, although there's rumblings kind of like, under the table that nobody's talking about but are there. But at the same time, I think it's going to behoove them to try to bring somebody in that can help lend another voice, into that coaching group, because the fact of the matter is they're probably going to lose Ivan Fears to retirement as well. He's been one of the best running backs coaches in the league, one of the most well-respected. So now when you lose that type of prowess, now you're really talking about a brain drain. So Bill's going to have his work cut out for him this year. The guys he surrounds himself with is really going to determine as to whether or not he's the same Bill and whether or not he can still weather the storm.
So do you think they're married to some of the rumors around Adam Gase?
I've heard mixed things on Gase, to be totally honest with you. It's something, again, that I think raises the blood pressure of a lot of Patriots fans. When they hear the name Adam Gase, all of a sudden it's like, oh, God, no, please. but Gase is, for all intents and purposes, Gase is actually a very solid offensive mind. What you don't want from Gase is having him anywhere near the head coaching position. Obviously, that hasn't worked out so well. So if he does come in, I know Belichick has liked him for a number of years, admired the work that he did in Denver, admired the works that he's done in Miami. He hasn't really said much about what he did in New York, but at the same time, there is a pedigree there. So that is a possibility, but I think it's a lot less of a possibility now that Judge is there. I think they're probably not going to look at someone with a reputation or maybe even a presence like a Gase. I think it might be something a little bit less in terms of what they might bring in. Jerry Schlapinski is a guy that I would look at very closely. He's got a relationship with Joe Judge. He's coached quarterbacks before. He knows the system. He would make a lot of sense. So that, to me, is, I think, what the Patriots might look to do rather than bring in someone like a Billy O'Brien or an Adam Gase at this point. But, again, Belichick dances to the beat of his own drum. You can't necessarily count anything out.
Yeah. And at this point, it's like, man, just bring in anybody because everybody's leaving. It's like, we need help.
For real.
It's true.
Nah, they definitely need something. They definitely need a really good, offensive minded, coach that.
I mean, when you're talking about Matt Patricia coming on as
please,
what?
please,
On offense?
No,
Come on.
Matty P, no. Guy could barely coach defense. Like, please, let's not have him on the other side on the offensive ball. We don't need that. That would be the absolute worst thing for Mac Jones's development and for that Patriot offense. Like, that would just be an epic disaster and a nightmare. Like, please do not see that. I don't want to have to watch that every Sunday. Like, no, like that's not an option. But it's for sure. So I just wanted to ask you, Mike, I know we've talked about, the coaches on as far as what they need to do on the offense. I want to know what you think they need to do on the defense, because what I was noticing is I think that there was some sort of confusion going on between who the voices on that defense, whether it's Steve Belichick or Jared Mayo, because what I was hearing was that there would be some days and sometimes where the defense would have meetings with Steve Belichick and he would say one thing, and then Jared Mayo in his meetings with the defense would, say something else. So it was like kind of like miscommunication and kind of got guys confused, and they weren't on the same page on that side of the ball. And I think that's what caused them to not play as well towards the end of the year, particularly after that bye week. When from the Colts game on. So wanted to ask you, what do you think they should do as far as like their who's gonna like be the main guy that coaches the defense, or do they need to maybe bring someone outside and have them as like a defensive coordinator on this staff?
Yeah, I think what they need more than anything, Barry, is just continuity. And I think you hit the nail right on the head. When you have Steve Belichick running plays some days, Gerard Mayo, running plays other days, it creates confusion. Sometimes it can create chaos. And I think you saw the Patriots defense not really look chaotic, because under Bill Belichick, you're never going to see a defense out there that doesn't know anything or that looks like they're, running around just, without any structure at all. But you lack that continuity on the defense this year. They looked a step too slow sometimes. And yes, there are some of the linebackers that are showing their age a little bit. Kyle Van Noy, definitely still an explosive player, but he looked a step slower than he usually is. Dante Hightower is showing his age a little bit as well, and maybe a little bit of a step too slow. These are still smart football players, and I fully expect both of them back this year. But at the same time, you have to compensate. You have to get some speed. You have to get some quickness and maybe a little bit more continuity on play calling. If that happens and you're able to utilize guys that do have some speed on this team, someone like a Josh Uche, who I expect to make a big stride this year in his third year. I think he's starting to come into his own a little bit more. Utilize his speed. Let's see what the kid can do in that, in that Mike linebacker type role, because I think he's someone that can really make a difference on this defense as well. And the secondary will continue to be a strong suit. A lot of it is going to determine as to what they decide to do with J.C. Jackson. But at the coaching level, getting back to what your original point, at the coaching level, I think right now the New England Patriots just need continuity in terms of who's calling the plays. As far as titles go, the Patriots have never been big on assigning a defensive coordinator or a title. I don't think they're going to do it this year from what I'm hearing around the locker room. But knowing that it's either going to be Steve or it's going to be Gerard, the Patriots have to know exactly what they're doing and have that stability, that stabilizing voice in the locker room. Because if you have too many cooks in the kitchen, it's going to lead to a really messy meal.
No, absolutely. I totally agree with that. No, definitely, like you said, continuing chemistry is going to be key and huge for that Patriots defense, and also communication and everybody being on the same page, and from the coaching staff to the players. That's definitely going to be so important and significant for this defense moving forward. And like you said, again, some youth, like they need to get younger. They need more team speed. They need, guys that can fly around and pursue the ball and be able to make, plays in the open field and, and make tackles when, in open space, because we didn't really see that too much. Like you said, I'd like to see a guy like Josh Uche play. I feel like he's he plays well when he's in there, but he doesn't get enough snaps and reps. I want to see him get more, reps and opportunities to play. Now, I also wanted to ask you about Mac Jones as far as what he needs to do, how you thought his rookie season went, and then also what he needs to do to get better and to improve in the offseason to be able to take that next step in his game. And can he also be as good of a quarterback as, let's say, like Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, Josh Allen, like any of the top, Pat Mahomes, like can he be close to that level, at some point in his career? What are your thoughts on Mac Jones and what you've seen from him?
Yeah, I think Mac can be as successful as he wants to be. And I think because of that, the reason why he's so successful in the Patriots organization is because of the system that he runs. And Mac is the perfect quarterback to run that system. Timing based on vertical routes, getting the ball where the receiver can get it, and then putting the ball where the receiver can not only get it, but also do things with it after the catch. Yards after the catch is so big when it comes to the New England Patriots offense. And I don't know how much that's going to change with a new offensive mind now that Josh McDaniels is no longer here, but I expect that to continue because that's Mac's strong suit. That's the type of system that he likes to run. He ran it so well in Alabama for a number of years. I expect that to continue. As far as his rookie season, I thought Mac was solid. I thought he did a great job of being consistent. I thought he did a great job of being accurate. And I think he did a great job of being, someone that could learn from some of his mistakes and make those adjustments on the fly. And I was very impressed by how he was able to show leadership as a rookie and really gain the respect and the trust of a lot of his teammates. That's not something that's easy to do. Trust is something that is very difficult to earn in an NFL locker room. And when you do it as a rookie and you do it as a young player, that says a lot about you. And when you have guys like Dante Hightower, Devin McCourty, Matthew Slater, all of these guys coming out, David Andrews, all of these guys coming out and really giving a lot of respect and a lot of accolades to Mac Jones, it lets you know you're doing something right. Now, on the other side of that, when it comes to what he needs to do to continue to evolve, I think Mac right now, one of the knocks on Mac, obviously people are going to point to arm strength. I think that that's a little bit overrated. That's not a huge part of his game. Mac can throw the ball. He doesn't have a noodle arm. I've heard a lot of people say that, and I think that's ridiculous. Anybody that's seen Mac throw, I think he can throw the ball. Now, does he have the arm of a Josh Allen or even a Pat Mahomes? No, and I think Mac would be the first to tell you that as well. But that's not his strong suit. That's not his game. He'll play his game the way it's predicated. What I'd like to see from Mac this year is his ability to pick up the blitz from the second and third level of the defense. That's something that he struggled with. And yeah, some people will try to tell you that it was because of the offensive line problems and they didn't have good blocking. Some of that is correct. I don't want to put it all on Mac's shoulders, but as the quarterback, as the man under center, you have to do a very good job of being able to pick that up. I don't see a lot of, quarterbacks making progressions that have good rookie seasons that become good quarterbacks in their second and third season without making that adjustment. Mac is smart. He knows that that's an Achilles heel. I think he's going to work on that a lot this year, maybe a little bit in terms of footwork, maybe a little bit in terms of mobility. Mac is more mobile than people give him credit for as well, but he's not going to go out there and win any sprinting contests. Although he did look pretty good doing the gritty the other day. I got to be honest with you.
On that 71-yarder, yeah.
He looked pretty good on that one.
Pretty good footwork on that.
Yeah, exactly. I think
with that, definitely. That was pretty smooth.
Without any question there. But bottom line, I mean, if he's going to make that progression, that's what I'd love to see him work on, be able to pick up that second, third level blitz. If he can do that, that's going to lead to a lot of easier completions, and it's going to lead to him getting sacked a lot less. If he's upright, he can play with the best of them.
I agree with a lot of that right there. We've had you on for a little bit now, so we have a couple more questions for you before we let you go. But I hear a lot about the Patriots and, continuity and, you see the transactions they make. They always bring back coaches that were here before. I think I got two questions. It's like, are the Patriots or Bill Belichick, is he afraid of changes? Is he afraid of change or, bringing in somebody fresh that can change things a little bit? And, you know, my next question is what do we need to focus on the draft?
Those are good questions, John. First of all, I'll start with the Belichick question in terms of him evolving or being afraid of change. I don't think I classify Bill as someone who's afraid of change. I think he knows that the game changes year to year. And I mean, I think he understands that players that come out of college are, you know, a different type of hybrid athlete than maybe the guys that he coached, definitely back the guys that he coached in the Giants days and, you know, the early days of the Patriots, you know, when he was here, and even the early days of the dynasty. But at the same time, I think he also realizes that there are evolutions that need to be made. In terms of him bringing back coaches that he's comfortable with, I think Bill is the type of coach that likes to be around people that understand his style, understand what he brings to the table, and understand what he's thinking. When you have that type of brain trust and that type of comfort level, it makes things easier on you in terms of being able to utilize your strengths and grow as a coach. One thing that I've noticed in him bringing back guys like McDaniels and bringing back someone like a Matt Patricia or Joe Judge is he brings these guys back after they've held head coaching positions. It's almost like he'll let them off into the wild a little bit, kind of get a taste of what it's like to wear the head coaching crown, and then bring them back in and say, okay, you got your taste of it. You know it's not easy. You know now what it's like to sit in this seat.
See what happened?
Tell me what you learned.
Right,
Tell
right.
me what you learned, and then you can cultivate them. That's why I look for Josh McDaniels to do a better job in Las Vegas this time around than he did in Denver the first time around. I think he's a smarter coach, and I think he will be effective. Matt Patricia, I'm not sure where, you know, that is going to go, if there's a head coaching job out there for him eventually. It ended badly in Detroit. I don't believe that's going to be the case. I just don't see that coming from him. To tell you the truth, I'd rather him be more in an advisory position rather than a coaching position. I think he's much better suited to be an advisor than a coach. That's just my personal opinion of Matt. But I think in a lot of ways, Bill is someone that will evolve. I don't think he's afraid of change, but I think he operates best when he knows the strengths and weaknesses of the guys that are around him. And that really is not so much being afraid of change. I think that's just knowing what you do well and being able to execute it. In terms of the draft, John, I think that's also an excellent question. And the Patriots, you know, and Barry, you mentioned this earlier, Patriots need to get younger at certain positions. One of the positions is going to be along the front seven, whether it's the defensive line or whether it's the linebacker position. I definitely look for them to look at those, try to bring guys in that can add a little bit of speed, that can add another dimension in terms of what they want. There's some good corners out there in this draft. You know, maybe they dip their toe into that if they decide to let J.C. Jackson test free agency and he is able to move on. You know, and then you look all of a sudden at wide receiver. I think a lot of people are going to be looking at them to try to bring in a young wideout. There's a lot of different directions that the Patriots can go into. They have several needs on this team, but right now, if I'm ranking them, I'd probably say defensive front seven. I'd say wide receiver right there on the tail. The cornerback position is a possibility. And then with Bill Belichick, you can never rule out offensive line either. You know, he's always looking for help along that area.
Fact. You guys have any last questions for Mike?
Oh, no, I'm gonna let Barry ask the last questions.
All right, cool. Appreciate that, Vlad. So, my man, Mike, want to know, you know, obviously you've been covering the, you know, Patriots for a while. Who would you have in your top 5 list as, you know, Patriots, you know, of all time? Who would be on there?
All time, or just guys I've covered, or just all time?
On your list, it could be, you know, guys that you've covered. You know, it's your personal list as far as your favorite Patriots. You know, your favorite 5 Patriots.
Well said. Well said.
Absolutely.
In terms of, I mean, how do you leave Brady off the top of the list? I mean, I don't think there's anybody that can. I mean, I had the good fortune of being not only a fan of Tom, but also having the opportunity to cover him, being in press conferences, getting a chance to watch him practice on the field, getting a chance to see him interact with his teammates. Just arguably, in my opinion, the greatest NFL athlete of all time, the greatest NFL player of all time, and the greatest quarterback, in my opinion. Maybe not the greatest pure athlete. I think Tom would probably be the first to tell you that. But in terms of greatest player, you got to put him at the top of the list. I'm an old school guy. I like to study a lot of the older players. I never had a chance to see, him play in his prime. But John Hanna, I think, is someone that deserves to be on that list. Hog Hanna, in terms of what he did for that Pats offensive line, is truly remarkable. He's one of my all-time favorite guys to watch. I always like going back to the O-line because I think championships are won in the trenches, and I always love to see an offensive lineman. You have to put Rob Gronkowski on the list as well. I had an opportunity to be a fan of Rob and then get a chance to cover him, and truly one of the more remarkable players at his position. Always enjoyed watching Rob, and truly one of the greats. I put Curtis Martin on my top 5 as well. I mean, I know
that's
a lot of
good one. I like that.
I know a lot of what he did. I know a lot of what he did, and his prowess was with the Jets. But his early days running for the New England Patriots was just something that was a joy to watch. I was only a youngster when I watched, Curtis running and at his prime in New England. And I can tell you, there are very few players on that list that I would put there that I would say are guys that I enjoyed watching more. Curtis is right at the top of that list. And then personal favorite, I got to go with Matthew Slater. In terms of 5, the longevity that he's had, just the way he's conducted himself, pure class on and off the field. I've had the opportunity to interview Matthew one-on-one. I can tell you can't find a more genuine, really a more respectful player, human being. I love Matthew to death, and I really, hope that if he does decide that this is the year for him to walk away, he's certainly earned that. Selfishly, I want to see him back for one more year because I just love covering the guy and I love seeing him. But that would be my top 5. But you got so many guys that you could put in. Julian Edelman, just so many guys that I've. Drew Bledsoe. It's just so many guys off the top of my head. But I'm locking in those 5 that I gave. I'm pretty confident in that.
No, that's an awesome 5, man. That's dope. I love that list. All 5 great players, and like you say, legends and Hall of Famers and guys that was special and did a lot of great things, for the Patriots, and that won and came up big in the biggest moments when the lights were the brightest. So now it was, without question, that's a phenomenal list. I don't think I could come up with a better list myself with that. That's very good work, my friend. I like that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I want to give an honorable mention to Richard Seymour too. Big C going into the Hall of Fame.
Congratulations!
Yeah, I like that.
Absolutely.
I was thinking of giving you an honorable mention too, but that's a good one. No, definitely gotta mention him.
I just realized my list doesn't have a pure defender in there, so I kind of had to throw somebody else in there.
Yeah, no doubt. No, that's a good one. Good defensive player to throw in there for sure, man. Seymour was a beast and a monster, especially in that first 3 Super Bowls and that first, in that first dynasty. That guy was, my goodness, and he was like what pretty much Aaron Donald is now. That's how I kind of see it from that standpoint.
Absolutely, definitely, no question. Both he and Ty Law, 2 Hall of Famers, and hopefully the Patriots will get a couple of more before we close the book on those dynasty years. Those were special years for the New England Patriots, no question.
Absolutely. I agree with all that right there. Well, Mike, man, it's been a pleasure to have you on. Thank you for the conversation. We really appreciate it. If you're watching, make sure you're following Mike on MDebate NFL on Twitter. He got all the content. And I know you're about to cover the draft. You and actually Kevin Tame, who's
absolutely
our boys.
That's my guy right there. My man.
Once again, thank you so much for coming on. You're welcome on here anytime, man.
Anytime, guys. You do a great job. This is a true pro-level podcast. It's been one I've been looking forward to for quite a while. Thank you for having me on, and I'd be honored to come back whenever you'd love to have me. Maybe we'll get Kevin on, and we'll do a little tag team draft because there's nobody I'd rather go to battle with when it comes to the draft coverage than that guy right there. Kevin is a special guy, and the draft content that he's going to put out this year is going to raise a lot of eyebrows. So stay tuned, Patriot Maven, folks.
Awesome.
Yes, sir. Looking forward to it. I'm excited. That's what's up.
Have a good night, Mike.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Mike, for
Take care.
On. Appreciate it, man. It's
anytime. My
great
pleasure.
Having you on. We'll definitely have you on again, no doubt.
Absolutely, my honor. Thank you so much. Have a great night, guys.
You too. Take care, Mike. Take it easy.
Yes, sir. So
there you go. We had the great Mike debate on.
Great Mike Debate again. It's M Debate NFL, man. He's on Twitter and he got a lot of good content out there. So make sure you're following him, and make sure you're following us too. We're on everything at ProFan Sports on everything except for Instagram, and that's ProFans_sports. We're giving you the best content, every day. So make sure you're following us. Make sure you subscribe to this channel, like, comment. We read all of it. We appreciate all of it. Until next time, man. See you in the next episode. Peace out.
So have a good one, guys. See y'all next week on episode 100.
100.
100. That's right.